This is a moth meeting with its therapist about its fear of the dark. The therapist said, "Have you considered befriending a lightning bug?" This is a child at an arcade who stopped and said, "Gee, all these rigged games sure remind me of neoliberalism." This is a stray cat who was walking around Wall Street and said, "This is bullshit," and then left. This is a group therapy session where everyone is going around sharing their favorite hobby. One person said, "Cat call?" And everyone else said, "Well, that's terrible, isn't it?" This is someone taking Spanish lessons, but he feels bad because his parrot does a better job at pronunciation. These are a bunch of fireflies protesting against forced captivity in jam jars. This is a person whose insomnia was cured by a doctor. And they were like, "How did you cure me?" And the doctor was like, "I put a pillow between your knees." These are two woolly mammoths passing notes to each other. And one of them is like, "We can't do this because the notes will get buried in the ice and people will find out about our secrets thousands of years from now." This is an alcoholic bragging that mosquitoes don't bite them. And this is a scientist who said, "It's because your blood is toxic." This is someone who made a wish that ants don't exist anymore, and their wish came true. And then over here are some anteaters who are freaking out. This is me swimming and my bathing suit accidentally came off, but I just kept going. When I finished, I looked up and saw a sign that said, "Nudist pool." So then I felt okay about it. This is me acting grumpy and telling someone, "I haven't had my coffee yet." And then they responded, "But that's decaf." This is someone in a cafe demanding, "Who's Joe? And why is he in my cup?" This is a school at the end of the day, but the students had so much fun that they are all turning around and going back inside. This is a hand that's clammy and a hand with a weak grip, so therefore it's a very mediocre handshake. This is a cat clawing at this person's papers while they are trying to do their taxes, and the person is angry, but the cat is like, "What's the difference? You are going to evade them anyway." This is a person who just quit their job, and the first thing they did was take all their Post-it notes and throw them into a fire, one by one. This is a person listening to their coworker on the phone, going, and scribbling in their notebook. But the person didn't actually take note of anything they said. These are some volleyball players who suspect that the ball is implanted with a spy device, but they don't really care because they're having too much fun. This is a person whom you might think is doing an important experiment, but they're actually just smoking from a bong. This is a kid who has a lemonade stand and is demanding to know who will inspect his cooler box for sanitation standards. This is a rose that just happened to bloom on this person's anniversary, but it wished it hadn't. This is a tree that has been blowing to the left for 60 years, and suddenly the wind changed direction, and the tree isn't sure if it can bend the other way. This is a face painter who paints so slowly and so softly that this person is asleep and has no idea that they're being painted. This is a train that randomly paused in the middle of nowhere for an unknown reason, and there just happened to be a hitchhiker, and the conductor was like, "Sure, you can get in." This is a martini with the world's largest olive, and no, the customer was not entertained. These are all the things that are supposed to remove your pain while at the workplace. A yoga ball, an ergonomic chair, donuts, but really you just need this one: the door out of the building. This is my friend when he asked me if I wanted him to grab me a glass of water, and I said, "No thanks, I don't like when men help me." This is a bug that found its way into a broccoli patch and said, "No way will I be killed by some person in their kitchen sink," and turned around and left. This is me feeding a turtle a piece of iceberg lettuce and wondering why it doesn't have better taste. This is a spider who builds a web in the corner of this person's room every single morning, and the person tears it down every single night. Needless to say, the spider is a little exhausted. This is a psychic medium who can see my future, but won't tell me because they are self-conscious about their psychic powers, so I asked for my $20 back. This is a flower that looks particularly beautiful in the moonlight, and this is a man who looks particularly like a drunken mess in the moonlight. These are two giraffes who decided they want to make a sex tape together. These are two scientists. One said coffee and wine are bad for you, and the other said, no, coffee and wine are good for you. And then God appeared and said, science is subjective. This is a computer mouse shaped like a real mouse, and real mice often mistake it for someone they know. This is a fireman getting scolded because he risked his life to save a child's stuffed animal that was dropped into Niagara Falls. This is peanut butter that's sold in a bowl because a lot of people just eat it by itself, like a meal. This is the jelly industry going out of business. This is someone talking to their therapist because they really like eating lemons in public and they're self-conscious about it. This is a bat that can actually see, but it still does echolocation as a hobby. This is a rooster that's trying to figure out exactly when dawn starts, but it can't really see the horizon because of all the barns around. This is a camel that got its hump removed for cosmetic reasons, but now it's having an identity crisis because other camels just pass right by it without realizing that it's a camel too. This is a woolly mammoth that is actually from the future. It shaves regularly because it's hot. This is a ladybug that's just not a lady. It likes cars, beers, and football. This is a toad with a beautiful voice. It sings with a choir and no one notices it except for this princess hanging around. This is a T-Rex that just wants to give hugs, but it can't because its arms are too short. This is a mosquito that just has a lot of empathy. It doesn't want people to be annoyed or itchy, so it just asks other mosquitoes if they can spare some blood. This was a fly that was a germaphobe. It only ate clean food, which it could never get, so it died young, but it lived a very sanitary life. This is a bird that is stuck to the ground, but it's the first one to get the worm because it's already right there. This is a giraffe that can't balance very well, so it has 4 giraffe canes. This is a fish that prefers to sunbathe quite often. The other fish really admire it for its lung capacity. This is a turtle that's manic, so it's always running around, and therefore its legs are very toned and muscular. It has no problem partnering up with other turtles. These are animals that would probably smoke weed with you. Koala bear, turtle, starfish. These are things that make you feel like you're on a leash, even though you're not. Wired headphones, a really attractive person, heteronormative culture. These are things that look amazingly soft, but they will disappoint you. Clouds, wool sweaters, bears. These are lessons I learned in architecture class. You must work your ass off in order to survive. You must twirl your pencil when you draw a line. And when you're in a space, you need to try and feel the poetry. These are things you should do if you take your shirt off. Feed a baby, dance on a pole, put on sunscreen. These are animals that you want to hug, but they'll kill you. Bear, dolphin, goat. These are animals that don't understand the concept of personal space. Dogs, flies, seagulls. This is a person who has an extreme addiction to origami, to the point where no one can leave important documents near them because they will get lost somewhere in the form of a crane or a lotus flower. This is a person who is in a rage and is smashing things to pieces, but it's okay because they are actually a building demolition specialist, and they're on the clock right now. This is a computer with a virus on it, but the virus was made for fun by a student, and it will be deleted tomorrow permanently. This is a sword, but it's so dull that it could probably only cut some brie cheese or something. This is a gun that shoots Tic Tacs at people who have bad breath. These are activities that are supposed to be fun but seem boring. Automatic car wash, fireworks, heterosexuality. These are common household mistakes that show that the human race is flawed. Forgetting the baking soda and cookies, banging around a bunch of pots and pans when someone is trying to sleep, putting a pile of junk in the yard and leaving it there for 10 years. These are places where people are told they're doing a good job, but they're actually not. Yoga class, executive boardrooms, kindergarten art class. These are things that make no sense to try to take care of. A snake, a worm, a cactus. These are some things that make 0 sense to buy. A night in a 12-bed hostel room, fake spider webs, shag rug. This is the only sleeping position that works for me. This is a thunderstorm that is very considerate and doesn't get you wet or mess up your hair. This is a world where every time someone catcalls, a cat attacks them and digs its nails into their groin area. This is a special happy meal that makes your blood pressure go down, and it works as an antidepressant. This is ice cream that actually, when you eat the entire tub, it makes you love yourself and feel very social. These are cigarettes that actually only make you cough when you are about to say something inappropriate. This is a special kind of bar where the drinks actually make you a genius and take your libido away. This is a place where people give their money to machines and they just keep it. This is the cheapest airline that lands 3 miles away from the airport, and you have to walk there single file, no trail mix provided. This is where I wish the plane landed when I visit my friend's house. These are things that were born with a hat on: acorn, mushroom, rooster. This is a blanket made by a woman named Betsy Ross. It was a hit at first, but now not quite as much. These are 2 tortilla chips stuck together. This is a Venn diagram that was supposed to be a bit further up and a little to the right. This is a take-home sample of a fence with a barbed wire across it. This is a stack of 2 books with a spaghetti-o and a blueberry. These could be several things. They could be decorations for a classroom. They could be bad tattoos, or they could be ecstasy. These are examples of all the things I like to do horizontally: slithering around like a snake, peering into a hole, lying across a puddle for someone attractive to walk across my back. These are things that need a lot of ingredients: paella, casserole, something to balance out the sourness of millennials. This is a very lonely person who gets attention by hitting tennis balls out of the court all day long. This is a caterpillar who eats leaves, but he likes to put salad dressing on them first.